Hello everyone, welcome to this week's video from the Purple Penny. My name's Mark. I own and run the Purple Penny along with my wife Catherine. Purple Penny is a small family run coin and banknote dealer. We're in the northern suburbs of Adelaide, in a suburb called Mawson Lakes. And what do? We buy and sell coins, banknotes and collectibles. A little bit of gold and silver. And we sell through our shop here in Mawson Lakes, which is open Wednesday through to Saturday, and also through our website, thepurplepenny.com. Catherine and I are both collectors. We don't collect a lot of what we buy anymore. We sort of collect weird, wonderful things, but it is a fun job for us because we get to play with coins and talk to collectors and have a good time here in the shop. These videos are put to air at about this time every Monday at 12 o'clock, not on public holidays, so if there is a public holiday coming up, it won't be happening then. And we try to just talk about what's been going on with coins and banknotes around the world, if there's been any interesting news, and we try to have a bit of a topic of the day and what's been going on here in the shop. So we've been back from the Christmas break for 2 weeks and it has been very busy. Last week was just very busy indeed. So, you know, if our average sales is X, then the last 2 weeks we've done 2 or 3X per week. If our average purchases are X, then last week we probably did 6 times X. It was just extremely busy every minute that we were open, with lots of buying and lots of selling, which is good signs, I guess, for the industry. Silver's continues to make its run. I did notice on my computer there before that looks like it was almost hitting 100, so it's 139.76 Australian dollars an ounce right now, which is quite remarkable. It makes a round 50-cent piece worth $47 or $48. And that has really, I guess, changed the demographic of the people that are coming in here and the types of phone calls we're getting and the selling experiences we're having with people. So, you know, I will just, you know, it's extremely volatile. So on Thursday it was $139 and by 2 o'clock in the afternoon it was $132. And if you're wondering why people like us, why there is a difference between the actual silver value and what we pay, it's because of that. It's so volatile that and the margins are so small that we have to make a less safety allowance. But, you know, that being said, hardly anyone's selling it. I mean, we had a guy on Wednesday sold us some stuff, and because silver went up so much overnight, he came back in on Thursday morning and wanted it back. You know, it's insane what's going on at the moment. So the first 2 news items are about silver. So the first was an interview I read about the owner of a bullion company in the USA. So silver, if you're wondering, is up 25% in January, so that's 25% this month. And this particular bullion dealer in America, Money Metal Exchange, they had the biggest month ever in December, and yeah, we've seen a similar thing here in the shop. The last 6 months of last year was as much as the 12 months preceding. So, you know, we've had an amazingly busy time here, and that's continuing to be the case in this new calendar year. If you're wondering what the sort of splits are that this particular dealer has, they're selling American Silver Eagles, which is the most common 1 ounce silver coin over there, at $12 US above spot price, and that's less than what we sell them for here. That's more than what we sell them for here, so $12 above the spot price. It's very difficult, well, it's not very difficult, it's almost impossible to get silver at spot price, either buying or selling. And they're paying between $5 and $8 under spot for generic 1 ounces, so you're not going to get the spot price unless you manage to sell it to another stacker. And the business itself has doubled in size in the last 2 months, which must be an interesting experience to have hired on that many people. They've hired 40 people since the beginning of December, and they're looking to hire another 30 in January just to keep up with demand. And I'm hearing stories of bullion sellers here in Australia that are taking between 6 weeks and 2 months to fulfill the orders that people are placing on their websites, which is quite remarkable that there is that sort of delay. Now, this isn't just in Australia or the USA. In India, the Indian bullion market has seen a real change over there. Indians culturally love to buy gold, and silver has always been of less interest, but now we're seeing Indian public turn to silver instead of gold, and some sellers are seeing a 50% increase in sales year on year of silver. And over Diwali, some gold and silver dealers are now saying that their business is 30% silver compared with 5% last year, so that's quite a remarkable increase. Bullion dealers over there saying it's driven by two factors. Firstly, that silver has increased so much more rapidly than gold in the last year. It certainly has increased a lot more rapidly, and there's a little graph there that I lifted off of the Times of India, which is a newspaper over there. You can see how much more that has changed since the calendar year last year, January last year. But I'm not exactly sure what currency that is, but a $78,800 portfolio of gold has only increased to $141,000, whereas a similar sized portfolio of silver has gone up to $280,000. So now, why has the usage of silver or the desirability for silver gone up? Firstly, it is that increase in the price, and also gold is very expensive and you only get a small amount for your money, so people perceive that silver is a better value for them. Don't you dare restart. Fiji released new series banknotes just this month, and this was despite criticism from vision impaired agencies in Fiji, saying that the new notes were going to be difficult for people with vision impairments to use. And that's because the new notes have very little size difference between denominations, and the previous notes that have been superseded, there were size differences of up to 5 centimetres between the different denominations, so it was reasonably easy for people with vision impairment to be able to distinguish between the different denominations. The designers of the notes did try to make the notes more accessible by placing raised dots on them, similar to what's happening here in Australia. But unlike the Australian banknotes, the raised dots didn't comply with any standard that vision impaired people that are used to, such as International Standard Braille. So as a consequence, while the dots are on those notes, they are virtually meaningless to vision impaired people. They don't mean anything to them. So pretty poor effort there by whoever designed these banknotes. As a short-term fix, it looks like the Reserve Bank of Fiji is going to release identifier cards for vision impaired, because if you are vision impaired, you don't want to be reliant on other people to make sure that you have the correct money, because it leads to possibilities of being deceived. So they're releasing identifier cards, which I think are sort of sizes, so you can slip the notes through different size slots and work out what denomination note you have. But the Reserve Bank has admitted that there will be no fix available in the short term, at least, that it does require a significant redesign of the banknotes. So not great by the Reserve Bank of Fiji there. Now, there's a big auction house in America called Heritage Auctions. They're probably the best known online auction house for world coins, certainly the one that I know the best. And there was a big auction last week, and included in that was a number of important gold Australian coins and some things that I've never seen for sale before. So I thought I'd just have a quick look at that and have a bit of a dive into one of those particular items. But before we do that, we'll just say hello to everyone who's taken the time out to join in today. Hello Sam, hello Ian, hello Jonathan, hello Gwen, hello Brett, hello Ray, hello Jason, hello Ted, hello Patrick, hello Shane, hello John, Tom, no worries mate, you're allowed to be out on the tractor. Graham and Mick, thank you everyone for joining in, and if you're watching out there on YouTube, hello to you. These videos all end up on YouTube usually 2 or 3 days after they air live. If you're wondering how many videos there are, there's hundreds. It goes back 6.5 years or so of weekly videos, so you're really that excited, you can go and watch all of those. And thank you to all the people on YouTube who do comment on those videos. It's nice to see some of those comments. Now, let's have a look at some of these items that sold at Heritage last week, because they are important things. And I guess I try to keep these videos grounded and only include items that I guess the average collector can afford, because the things that I'm talking about here, you can see this proof pattern 1853 sovereign there. They're not coins that 1% of collectors can afford, or 0.1%. It's literally that collector in 100,000 or that collector in 150,000 who really only collects ultra rarities and has a huge amount of disposable income that can afford things like this. I can't afford them. There's not things that I collect. I mean, I'd love to see one, but I have no desire to own one, and I don't have the financial resources to be able to own one. But I think it is important to spend some time looking at numismatic rarities, because all of these items are significant parts of Australian coin collecting history, and it's always, we got to where we are by standing on the shoulders of these sort of incredibly rare coins, and it is nice to, even though none of us that's probably watching this video can afford to collect these things, it's always nice to know where coins came from here in Australia and understand their history and understand how we've got to where we are today, and it's coins like this that helped us get there. Now, the first one here is a 1853 sovereign, and it's a proof pattern. And if you're wondering what a pattern is a proposed design of a coin. Now, the reverse of this coin has a fairly familiar Sydney Mint design, but the obverse, and I'm probably going to be completely wrong here, the obverse has a portrait of Queen Victoria, which was not used on Sydney Mint sovereigns. So this was the portrait that was used on British sovereigns at the time. So this was a proposal for a coin. They only made 4 of these, so very small number. It's you can imagine the cost involved with engraving the dies just to make 4 coins, and the time spent polishing those dies and polishing the blanks and then striking the coins. So these coins would have been struck multiple times, so they were just struck as an idea of a coin. That's what a pattern is, an idea of a coin. Now this particular one is graded by NGC as PR63 Ultra Cameo. A lot of these older proofs don't grade particularly highly, because often they were kept in felt containers and they were lightly brushed to take dust off of them and things like that. So often they don't have high grades on them. This one, according to the heritage listing, has provenance going back to the 1960s, and it sold for just a lazy US $312,000, which is 465,000 Australian dollars. Very desirable if you are into collecting such a thing, because it is the only one available in private hands. The other 3 are in institutions. There's one in a museum and then 2 in the Royal Mint Archives in the UK. So if you want one of these, this is the only one that is available, and if 2 people with the wherewithal to afford it were bidding at the same time, then they would have bid that coin right up. Beck is saying that Happy Monday Madness with silver at 140 an ounce. Is it 140? It's gone down to 139. I'm not sure if it hit 140, but I haven't been here all day. The next item that sold was another proof pattern. This is a 1855 proof pattern half sovereign, graded PR66 Cameo, so significantly better grade than the last one. It's just one of 5 known and probably the finest one. I believe there's 2 or 3 of these in private hands, so in comparison to the last one, very common. And because of that, it only sold for US 168,000, which is just $250,000, which it's not even enough to buy an apartment really. So it's just spare change for someone. Beautiful coin, and that portrait of Queen Victoria is used on Sydney Mint sovereigns and half sovereigns. Just an amazing coin. I mean, it's only about as big as a 5-cent piece, so I'm not sure how spectacular it would be in hand, but it would be nice to just look at it once. Now the next item is something that I don't know that I've seen one sell in my time. Maybe Coinworks or someone like that had an Adelaide ingot. I'm not sure. So this is an Adelaide ingot. These were issued by the Adelaide Assay Office in 1852, and it's a cast blob of gold that has been stamped with various things, so some legends: weight of ingot, ounces, pennyweight, grains, and then it's actually been stamped with the actual weight and the caratage of the ingot. It is just one of perhaps 2 or 3 that are available in private hands, and just one of 6 or 7 that are known to exist. So these were only made for a very short time here in Adelaide. So these have a particular interest to South Australians like myself. And this one has a provenance that goes back to 1922, so that's only 70 years after it was made here in Adelaide. And one of the owners is, you may or may not know this name, is King Farouk, who was the king of Egypt, and he is renowned for having the best coin collection ever. And I don't mean in Egyptian terms, I mean ever. Supposedly his collection was amazing, and there was several huge sales of his collection in the 1950s after he passed away, and he owned one of these Adelaide ingots. And as I said, I don't recall another one ever coming up for sale, although I'm sure that there probably was, but I don't ever recall one coming up for sale. Now I have actually seen one. I've held one. Catherine and I have held one, because there's one in the Art Gallery of South Australia. So I thought today what we could do is we'll just have a sort of a 5-minute look at the Adelaide ingot, because it is such an interesting thing, and just looking at how they came about and why they only lasted a short time. So in 1851, similar to the California gold rush, gold was discovered here in Australia, in Victoria and New South Wales, just a few months apart. And almost half the adult male population of South Australia. So it was estimated that 17,000 men of 36,000 men that were in the colony of South Australia at that point left to attend the goldfields. So you can imagine the chaos that would cause on an economy when half of your male workforce up and leaves. And this is back in a time when women didn't work, didn't have any rights, or so most of the work was done by men. So half of your workforce just up and leaves, and you can imagine that the chaos that would have caused here in South Australia in terms of keeping trade going, keeping businesses going, and things like that. I mean, half of your workforce just leaves. Who cuts the timber? Who harvests the food? Who drives the wagons? Who works in the shops? I mean, there was no one. So every second person had left to go to the goldfield. So the colonial government, in a desperate attempt to try and bring some of those people back to South Australia and keep the economy going, passed the Bullion Act in 1852 and founded the Adelaide Assay Office. And they also started gold caravans that went from Adelaide to Victoria and back again, and they provided escorts for those gold caravans. So this was an attempt to bring some of this found gold to Adelaide, and then also to bring some of that male workforce back here to Adelaide. So the first thing that the Adelaide Assay Office did when they opened on the 10th of February in 1852 is that they processed several hundred ounces of gold into these Adelaide ingots. If you were, if I was a gold miner, and I'd put my packet of gold on the gold caravan in Western Victoria, and there was 1.3 ounces of gold, then that would get sent to the Adelaide Assay Office. And if I didn't want to sell it to them, if I wanted them to process it, then they would melt it down, do an assay on it. And an assay is a test of precious metal to work out the precious metal content. They would cast it into this blob and stamp the standard legends on it, weight of ingot and all that sort of stuff, and then hand punch the caratage and the weight of the ingot on the outside. And that ingot would be sent back to me in Western Victoria, or if I was here in Adelaide, I would take it and try and spend it. Now, this would be like trying to spend a $105.13 note. So these were, while they were a way of bringing gold to South Australia and a small amount of revenue was raised in the processing of them, they were reasonably difficult to spend. Difficult to pass off. How do you make change and things like that from these? So as a consequence, they were not made for very long. We're only talking a few months. Okay, and if you're wondering how many of these are still extant, the answer is 7. They probably made, I mean, I don't know how many they made. I've never seen the records, but only 7 of them are still known to exist. And according to Andrew Crellin, who has a great article up on the Sterling Currency website about these, of those 7, only 5 have known locations. There are 2 that are in unknown locations. So the 2 examples that I've got there, the one at the top left is in the Dixon Library in New South Wales, and the one at the top right is in the Art Gallery of South Australia's Numismatic Collection, and that's the one that Catherine and I have seen because we got to have a look at that collection a few years ago. So as you can see, they are quite different shapes to the other one that I showed you, the one that sold for $545,000 US. A lot of money. So the office basically process received gold, cast it into blobs, stamp them with the weight and purity for a fee. And these are Adelaide ingots. There's 7 examples known to exist, 2 in private hands, 4 in institutions, and 2 in unknown locations. So you can imagine these don't appear very often. And it could be argued that these are the first coins made by a government institution here in Australia. Now, what did they do after they didn't make these for very long? Well, when they realised that how unwieldy the Adelaide ingots were, they made the decision to create an Adelaide pound. And you've probably heard of the Adelaide pound before. These were created by the Government Assay Office here in Adelaide, struck with dies, engraved by, I want to say Joshua Payne. I'm not sure who they were engraved by. They come in 2 types, type 1 and type 2. The type 1s are only made for a short time because the die used to create them cracked so quickly. So they didn't make very many of these. I'm not exactly sure what the mintage is, but there's still, dozens of these still available, perhaps low hundreds. We've had 1 come in 7 years. That one that I've shown there is a mint state example that just sold in the heritage auction, the same heritage auction. So these were called Adelaide pounds, and they were called Adelaide pounds because they were almost the same size and weight as a sovereign. A gold sovereign is 8 grams of 22 carat gold. These were slightly more than 8 grams, but they were 22 carat, and they were valued at £1, which is the same value that a sovereign has. A sovereign's face value is £1, which is $2. So in theory, you could take your sovereign to the bank and cash it in for $2 face value. And this is probably the first coin that was struck by a government body here in Australia. I mean, I don't know if that's 100% true. I want to think it is. Now, these were very short-lived because the South Australian government took it upon themselves to have these minted and then wrote a letter to the Colonial Office asking permission to do it. And in fairly short order, the permission came back. The notification came back from the government in England that they couldn't do it, so they only minted them for a few months. And just 3 years later, the Sydney Mint started creating sovereigns, 1855, 1856, sovereigns and half sovereigns, and that was the start of sovereigns and half sovereigns being made here in Australia up until they were phased out in 1931. So that's the Adelaide pound. 2 South Australian numismatic items, probably the first numismatic items created by a government body here in Australia. Both very valuable. The Adelaide ingots worth several $100,000. They are genuinely unobtainable for the average person, but it doesn't change the fact that they are quite remarkable numismatic items, and we should take note when they have sold. Right. That's it. That's all I've got. We'll say a few more hellos and then we'll say goodbye. Hello Silvernut. Hello Peter. Hello Jen. Hello Bevan. Thanks for joining in, mate. Hello Jason. What did they weigh roughly? I'm sure you're talking about the Adelaide ingot there. Well, the weight is actually stamped on the coin, on the ingot itself. Just see if I can find the right slide here. So the weight of that one that sold at the Heritage auction was 10 penny weight. 10 penny weight and 11 grains. So if someone wants to Google up how much a penny weight weighs for me, please. I can probably do it over here. 10 penny weight, 2 grams. So 10 penny weight is 15.55 grams. So that means that 20 penny weight must be an ounce. Yeah, so it's about half an ounce of gold, that particular ingot there that I have shared with you. Where is it? This one here. Hang on. Yeah, so about half an ounce of gold, about 15.5 grams of gold there, which, you know, what today is about $3,500 worth of gold, and it sold for 540,000 US dollars, which is 805,000 dollars Australian. So, you know, the weight of gold has ceased to matter with that particular item because it does have a huge premium on it. Have we got any more questions here? Hello Alex, thanks for joining in. Beck, thanks for joining in. And yeah, I guess that's it. That's it. Right. Now next week is January the 26th. So, oh, that's Australia Day. There won't be a video next week. Sorry about that. No video next week because it's Australia Day. We'll be back the week after. We might do a question and answer the week after, which will be early February. And so if anyone's got any questions or answers they want answered, then please send me a message, Facebook message, email, give us a phone call, whatever you want to do. I'll put some reminder posts up this week on our Facebook page. If you've got any questions, just pop them up there and I'll do my best to answer them. These videos go much better when I'm answering actual questions as opposed to having to make this stuff up. And, you know, I always appreciate feedback from everyone who watches. And if you are watching on YouTube later, then you've got any questions you want me to answer, please put in the comments on the YouTube video and I'll do my best to answer those. Thank you everyone for joining in. Thanks to Eric Eigner who popped in for a visit this morning. Eric runs Drake Sterling Coins in Sydney, deals mainly in gold coins, all PCGS graded coins, but focus on gold. Also has some pre-decimal and world stuff on his website. Great website, great guy Eric. It was a pleasure to have him in here. Thank you for taking the time to come out and see us, even though we're closed. And we'll see everyone next time. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Bye now.